Put your hands behind your back. You people always think you are above the law. Officer Daniel Brooks snapped as he cuffed a calm black woman on a busy Chicago street, completely unaware that the woman he was humiliating was the state attorney who would soon end his career with a single decision. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. The city moved with its usual rhythm that afternoon, steady and unbothered by anything that did not demand attention. Chicago's downtown streets carried the hum of footsteps, distant traffic, and quiet conversations drifting between glass buildings that reflected the late-day sunlight. People moved with purpose, some rushing, some lingering, but all part of a system that rarely stopped. Monica Hayes stepped out from the courthouse doors with a calm, measured pace, her posture upright, her presence composed in a way that did not ask for attention, but quietly commanded it. She wore a tailored navy blazer, her movements deliberate, her eyes scanning the street not with suspicion, but with awareness. A leather folder rested lightly in her hand, its edges worn just enough to suggest use, not display. To anyone watching, she appeared to be exactly what she chose to present. Another professional navigating the city, focused, self-contained, unremarkable. But there was something else beneath that stillness. Something precise. Her gaze did not wander. It observed. A taxi rolled past. A pedestrian crossed against the light. A distant siren echoed, then faded. Everything aligned into a pattern she understood without effort. Monica paused briefly at the edge of the sidewalk, adjusting her sleeve with a small, controlled motion before stepping forward into the flow of the street. The moment was quiet, predictable, until it was not. A patrol car slowed abruptly near the curb, its movement cutting sharply against the natural rhythm of the street. The engine idled louder than necessary. The presence felt immediate, intentional. Monica's eyes shifted slightly toward it, her posture adjusting, not in fear, but in recognition. The driver's door opened. Then the passengers. 2 officers stepped out, their movements already charged with something that did not belong in the calm of the moment. Officer Daniel Brooks walked with purpose, his expression set, his posture rigid with authority he had already decided to use. Officer Liam Carter followed behind, slower, his eyes scanning, his certainty less defined. Monica did not step away. She did not change direction. She simply stood where she was, her presence steady, her composure intact, because she had seen this pattern before, and she understood something the men approaching her did not. This was not a routine interaction. This was the beginning of a mistake. This was the beginning of a mistake, and Officer Daniel Brooks made sure it escalated immediately. He closed the distance between them without hesitation, his posture rigid, his expression already set with judgment. "Let me see your ID," he demanded, his tone sharp, leaving no space for context or explanation. Monica Hayes did not reach for anything. She remained still, her posture upright, her presence composed, her gaze steady as she met his eyes. "On what basis?" she asked calmly. The question landed and irritated him instantly. Brooks leaned in slightly, his voice tightening. "You do not ask the questions here," he said. "You comply." Monica did not raise her voice. "I'm asking for clarification," she replied. Officer Liam Carter shifted behind him, his eyes moving between them, his posture less certain. "Daniel, we should just know." Brooks cut in sharply, not looking back. "This is already suspicious." The word hung in the air, vague, unsupported. Monica's expression did not change. "Suspicious of what?" she asked. The precision of her question unsettled him more than defiance would have. Brooks exhaled sharply, shaking his head as if dismissing something he could not define. "You match a description," he said quickly. "Now show me your ID." Monica held his gaze for a moment longer, then slowly reached into her bag, retrieving her identification and handing it to him without resistance. Brooks took it, glancing at it briefly before passing it to Carter. "Run it," he ordered. Carter nodded, stepping back toward the patrol car, though his expression remained uneasy. Brooks turned back to Monica immediately, his tone shifting, more aggressive now. "Where are you coming from?" he demanded. "The courthouse," she replied. "Doing what?" "Work." Brooks tilted his head slightly, studying her as if confirming something he had already decided. "What kind of work?" he pressed. Monica did not hesitate. "Legal," she said. The answer should have slowed the moment. It did not. Instead, it seemed to irritate him further. "Step aside," Brooks ordered suddenly. Monica did not move immediately. "Am I being detained?" she asked. Brooks's jaw tightened. "You are about to be," he replied. The words landed heavier than he intended. Carter glanced up from the patrol car, his posture tightening. "Daniel, we do not have anything yet," he called out. Brooks ignored him completely. "Turn around," he said sharply. Monica remained still for a brief moment, then spoke again, her voice calm, precise. "You should reconsider this," she said. Brooks let out a short laugh, shaking his head. "You think this is going to change anything?" he asked. Monica met his gaze. "Yes," she replied. The certainty in her tone did not match the situation, and that was what unsettled him most. But pride moved faster. It always did. Brooks stepped forward, taking her wrist with firm, unnecessary force and pulling it behind her back. The motion was sharp, deliberate, designed to assert control. The second wrist followed. The metallic click of the handcuffs echoed through the busy street, louder than it should have been. Conversations nearby slowed. A phone lifted. The moment had become visible. Monica adjusted her stance slightly to maintain balance, her composure unbroken. "This is not lawful," she said calmly. Brooks leaned closer, his voice low, edged with confidence he had not earned. "It is now," he replied. And in that moment, as the cuffs locked into place and the street began to watch, one truth settled into the space between them. This was no longer a misunderstanding. It was a decision he had just made, irreversible. This was no longer a misunderstanding. It was a decision he had just made irreversible, and Officer Daniel Brooks leaned into it, as if the growing attention only justified his actions further. He tightened his grip slightly on Monica Hayes' arm, guiding her forward with unnecessary force, turning her toward the patrol car, as if the outcome had already been decided long before the moment began. "Move," he ordered sharply. Monica adjusted her footing, maintaining balance, her posture still upright despite the restraint. She did not resist. She did not pull away. She simply moved with controlled precision, her composure intact in a way that no longer matched the situation, but defined it. Around them, the street had slowed. Conversations had quieted. More phones were visible now, held at angles that suggested subtlety but revealed intent. The moment was no longer contained. It was being observed, recorded. "You are making a public arrest. Without cause," Monica said calmly as she was positioned beside the patrol car. Brooks opened a rear door with a sharp motion. "You can explain that downtown," he replied, his tone dismissive. Monica turned her head slightly, meeting his eyes. "I will," she said. The certainty in her voice lingered longer than it should have. Officer Liam Carter stepped closer, his voice lower now, tension evident. "Daniel, dispatch is not confirming anything," he said quietly. Brooks did not look at him. "Then we confirm it at the station," he replied. "We are not letting her walk." The phrasing was deliberate, final. It removed doubt by replacing it with commitment. Monica was guided toward the back seat. She paused, not resisting but intentional. "You still have time to correct this," she said quietly. Brooks let out a short breath, a faint, dismissive laugh slipping through. "No," he replied. "We are past that." Monica's gaze remained steady. "No," she said softly. "You are." The distinction settled into the air, heavier than anything else spoken. Carter's posture shifted again, his attention fully drawn now. He understood something had changed, even if he could not yet define it. Brooks did not, or chose not to. He placed a firm hand on the door, his voice sharper now, louder, as if reinforcing the decision required volume. "Get in," he ordered. Monica stepped into the vehicle without resistance, her movements controlled, her presence steady even as the door closed behind her with a solid, final sound. The street remained still. The watching did not stop. Brooks circled the car, his steps deliberate, his posture rigid, his confidence now carried more by momentum than certainty. He slid into the driver's seat, gripping the wheel as if it anchored him to control. "We are done talking," he said, glancing briefly into the rearview mirror. Monica met his gaze through the reflection, her voice calm, unwavering. "No," she said. "You have just started." The words settled into the confined space of the car, sharp and precise. Brooks did not respond. He shifted the car into gear, pulling away from the curb, leaving behind the street, but not the moment. Because as the patrol car merged back into the flow of the city, one truth had already taken hold. This was no longer something he could control. It was something that had already begun to move beyond him. It had already begun to move beyond him. And as the patrol car cut through the city streets, Officer Daniel Brooks tried to hold on to control by tightening his grip on procedure. The engine hummed steadily, but the air inside the vehicle felt heavier, compressed by something neither officer fully acknowledged. Brooks kept his eyes forward, his jaw set, his posture rigid as if focus alone could stabilize the situation. "We will process her and be done with it," he said, his tone flat, forced in his certainty. Officer Liam Carter sat beside him, his posture tense, his gaze flicking between the road and the rearview mirror. "Daniel, this does not feel right," he said quietly. Brooks exhaled sharply. "It does not have to feel right," he replied. "It just has to be handled." In the back seat, Monica Hayes sat upright, her hands restrained, her presence composed in a way that no longer fit the situation, but defined it. She did not lean back. She did not shift. She simply watched, her gaze steady through the reflection. "Handling something incorrectly does not make it correct," she said calmly. Brooks let out a short breath, a faint smirk forming. "You really think that is going to matter?" he asked. Monica met his gaze in the mirror. "It already does," she replied. The words settled into the confined space, sharper than anything before them. Carter's posture tightened further, his silence no longer neutral. "We should at least confirm who she is before we already know enough," Brooks cut in sharply. "She matched the description. She refused to cooperate. That is enough." The explanation came too quickly, too rehearsed. Monica's voice followed, steady, precise. "That is not how the law works," she said. Brooks shook his head, dismissing it, though his grip on the wheel tightened slightly. "Out here, it is," he replied. The patrol car slowed as it approached a red light, the sudden pause forcing stillness into the moment. The engine idled. The silence returned. For a brief second, no one spoke. Then Monica continued, her tone calm but deliberate. "Everything you have done today will be reviewed," she said. Brooks let out a short laugh, though it lacked confidence. "Reviewed by who?" he asked. Monica did not hesitate. "By people who do not rely on your version of events," she replied. The phrasing lingered. Specific. Unavoidable. Carter glanced back again, his expression tightening. Brooks noticed, but pushed past. "You keep talking like someone important is involved," he said. Monica's gaze remained steady. "Someone is," she said softly. The light turned green. Brooks pressed the gas, pulling the car forward again, as if motion could outrun the weight of her words. "We are done talking," he said firmly. Monica's voice came one final time, quieter but absolute. "No," she said. "You are running out of time." The words settled into the air, heavier than anything else. Brooks did not respond. He could not. Not because he did not hear her, but because something in her certainty had begun to reach past his control. But pride held its ground. It always did. And as the patrol car continued toward the station, one truth became undeniable. Even if he refused to see it, this was no longer something he was finishing. It was something that was about to finish him. It was something that was about to finish him. And as the patrol car pulled into the station lot, Officer Daniel Brooks held onto control with a grip that had already begun to slip. The tires rolled over the concrete with a low, steady sound before the vehicle came to a stop under the harsh fluorescent lights. For a moment, no one moved. The engine idled. The silence pressed in. Then Brooks exhaled sharply and opened his door. "Out," he said, his tone firm, though it lacked the edge it once carried. Officer Liam Carter stepped out more slowly, his posture tight, his eyes already scanning the building ahead, as if expecting something he could not yet define. Brooks moved to the rear door and pulled it open with a sharp motion. "Let's finish this," he said. Monica Hayes stepped out carefully, her posture upright, her composure unchanged, her presence steady despite the restraints. She did not look around. She did not react to the environment. She simply stepped forward, her movements deliberate, her calm now heavier than anything else in the moment. Inside the station, the rhythm of routine continued. Phones ringing softly, voices moving in low conversation, officers passing by without urgency. But as Brooks entered with Monica in cuffs, something shifted. Subtle at first, then more defined. A few heads turned. Conversation slowed. The moment was no longer invisible. "We have got a detention," Brooks announced, his voice rising slightly as if reinforcing authority through volume. "Non compliant." The label hung in the air, hollow against the reality of what had led them there. Carter lingered behind, his posture rigid, his silence no longer passive. Monica stood still near the processing desk, her gaze steady, her presence composed in a way that did not match the situation, but defined it. "Before you proceed," she said calmly. Brooks did not look at her immediately. "We are already proceeding," he replied. Monica's voice remained even. "Then document everything carefully." The phrasing landed differently now. Not as resistance, but as certainty. Brooks looked up, irritation flashing. "Everything is documented," he said. Monica met his gaze. "Good," she replied, "because this will not stay here." The words settled into the room, heavier than the noise around them. An officer nearby paused, his attention drawn without intention. Carter shifted slightly, his eyes moving between them, something in her tone reaching him more clearly now. Brooks let out a short breath, dismissing it with a faint shake of his head. "You keep saying that," he muttered. Monica did not raise her voice. "Because it is already true," she said. The silence that followed was no longer empty. It was building. Brooks turned away, grabbing paperwork, his movements sharper, more deliberate, as if finishing the process could restore control. "We are done talking," he said. Monica's final words came quietly, but with absolute clarity. "No," she said. "You have not started listening." The distinction settled into the space, sharper than anything before it. Brooks said nothing. He could not, because in that moment, standing inside the very system he believed protected him, one truth had already begun to take shape. This was no longer something he could process. It was something that was about to process him. It was something that was about to process him. And for the first time, the room itself seemed to slow, as if even the structure of the place recognized what was about to unfold. The fluorescent lights hummed faintly overhead, casting a flat, unchanging glow across the station floor. Officer Daniel Brooks stood behind the desk, pen in hand, staring at the report form, as if finishing it would restore control. "We are documenting the arrest," he said, his voice measured, forced into procedure. "Once that is done, we will proceed." Monica Hayes stood in front of him, her posture upright, her hands still restrained, her presence steady in a way that no longer matched the situation, but defined it completely. She did not interrupt him. She allowed him to continue, to write, to build the final version of what he believed had happened. That was what made the silence heavier. Officer Liam Carter remained off to the side, his posture rigid, his gaze shifting between them, his unease now fully formed. Brooks wrote quickly, pressing harder against the paper than necessary, each stroke sharp, deliberate. "Non-compliant subject," he muttered. "Refusal to cooperate." Monica's voice came quietly. "Make sure it is accurate." The pen stopped. Just for a second. Brooks looked up, irritation flashing. "It is," he said. Monica held his gaze. "Every word," she added, "because this report will not stay here." The phrasing settled into the room with quiet weight. Carter's head lifted slightly, his attention sharpening. Brooks let out a short breath, a faint smirk forming as he leaned back slightly. "You keep saying that," he replied, "like it is supposed to mean something." Monica's expression did not change. It does, she said. Brooks shook his head, dismissing it, though the motion was tighter now. You're not in a position to make demands, he said. Monica's voice remained calm. I'm not making demands, she replied. I'm giving you a final opportunity. The words landed differently. Not louder, but sharper. More precise. Carter's posture shifted again, his attention fully fixed now. Brooks paused just for a moment, barely noticeable, but enough to register something beneath the surface. Then pride moved. It always did. He straightened, closing the folder with a firm motion. We're done here, he said. You will be processed, and then we will see what happens. Monica tilted her head slightly, studying him, not with defiance, but with certainty. No, she said softly. You will. The silence that followed was heavier than anything before it. Brooks turned away, signaling for the next step, choosing not to hear what had already been made clear. And in that moment, as he finalized the report and committed fully to the path he had taken, one truth became undeniable. He had just rejected the last chance he would ever have to stop what was coming next. He had just rejected the last chance he would ever have to stop what was coming next. And when it arrived, it did not come with noise. It came with authority. Uncuff her. The voice cut through the station with calm precision, sharp enough to stop movement mid-action. Officer Daniel Brooks froze, his hands still resting on the desk, his posture caught between control and something far less stable. Slowly, he turned. The front doors of the station had opened, and the presence that entered was unmistakable. Suited officials moved inside with deliberate, measured steps, their posture aligned, their expressions controlled. At the center stood Assistant District Attorney Victor Lang, flanked by 2 senior legal officers. The room shifted instantly. Conversation stopped. Officers straightened. Even the air seemed to tighten. Lang's gaze moved past Brooks, directly to Monica Hayes. Ma'am, he said, his tone respectful, steady. We have been trying to reach you. The word alone fractured the moment. Brooks blinked, his expression tightening, confusion beginning to replace certainty. Ma'am, he repeated quietly. Monica turned her head slightly, meeting Lang's gaze with the same calm composure she had carried from the beginning. I am here, she replied. Lang nodded once, then turned toward the nearest officer. Remove the restraints, he said. There was no hesitation, no discussion. The cuffs were unlocked immediately, the metallic click echoing through the room. Final, unmistakable. Monica lowered her hands slowly, adjusting her posture, her presence unchanged. Brooks took a step back, his shoulders dropping slightly, his breath uneven now. Wait, what's going on? He asked, his voice no longer steady. Lang looked at him, his expression controlled, his tone precise. You're looking at the state attorney for this district, he said. Silence. Complete. Absolute. The weight of the words settled into every corner of the room. Brooks's mouth parted slightly, his mind struggling to align what he was hearing with what he had done. That is not possible, he said, though the denial had already begun to collapse. Monica met his gaze, her voice calm, unwavering. You were not required to know who I was, she said. You were required to follow the law. The distinction landed deeper than anything else. Around them, officers stood frozen, witnessing the complete reversal of power. Officer Liam Carter lowered his gaze completely, his silence now absolute. Brooks's hands dropped to his sides, his voice gone, his certainty dismantled. I did not know, he repeated, weaker now. Lang did not raise his voice. That is not a defense, he said. The finality in his tone left no space for argument. And in that moment, standing in the same place where he had believed he was in control, one truth became undeniable. This was no longer his situation. It never had been. And now, there was nothing left to protect him for what came next. There was nothing left to protect him from what came next. And for the first time, Officer Daniel Brooks stood in a room where his authority had no weight at all. The silence that followed the reveal was not empty. It was absolute. Assistant District Attorney Victor Lang stepped forward slightly, his posture controlled, his voice calm but final. Officer Daniel Brooks, he said, step away from the desk. Brooks did not argue. He could not. His body moved before his thoughts caught up, taking a slow step back, his posture no longer rigid, his certainty gone. The shift was complete. One of the internal affairs officers stepped forward, his tone measured. "Turn around," he said. Brooks hesitated, just for a second, but it was enough to reveal the instinct to resist. Then it disappeared. Slowly, he turned. The metallic click of restraints closing around his wrists echoed sharply through the station, louder than anything else in the room. The same sound he had used to assert control now marked his complete loss of it. Officer Liam Carter stood off to the side, his posture lowered, his gaze fixed on the ground. "You will remain available for questioning," another official told him calmly. Carter nodded immediately. "Yes, sir." There was no hesitation, no argument. He understood. Lang's voice came again, precise, each word deliberate. "All body camera footage and witness recordings have been secured," he said. "This incident will be referred for immediate disciplinary and legal review." Brooks's shoulders dropped slightly, the weight of it settling fully now. His voice, when it came, was barely steady. I did not know," he said. Monica Hayes stood a few feet away, her posture upright, her composure unchanged. Her voice came calm, unwavering. "That was never the requirement," she said. Brooks turned his head slightly, his expression uncertain, searching for something, understanding, perhaps, or a way to undo what had already been done. Monica held his gaze. "You were required to act correctly," she continued. The words settled deeper than any accusation. Around them, the station had gone completely still, every officer present now witnessing the complete reversal of power. An internal affairs officer stepped forward, removing Brooks's badge with quiet precision. There was no ceremony, no announcement, just finality. The small piece of metal was placed on the desk where he had stood moments earlier, now stripped of meaning. Brooks's posture collapsed slightly, his certainty gone, his presence reduced to something exposed and fragile. He said nothing, because there was nothing left to say. He was guided forward, his steps slow, unsteady, no longer leading, no longer deciding. And as he was led out of the station, past the same officers who had once followed his command, one truth remained clear for everyone who had witnessed it. This had never been about power. It had been about accountability. And now, there was no escape from it. There was no escape from it. And once the weight of consequence settled, the station itself seemed to return to what it had always been meant to be. The tension that had filled every corner only moments before began to dissolve, not suddenly, but in quiet layers. Conversations resumed in softer tones. Papers moved with purpose. The rigid edge of authority gave way to something steadier, something grounded. Monica Hayes stood near the center of the room, her posture upright, her presence unchanged. There was no visible shift in her expression, no outward acknowledgement of what had just happened, only stillness. Assistant District Attorney Victor Lang approached her briefly, his tone respectful, his voice low. She nodded once. Nothing more was needed. Around them, officers moved carefully now, their actions more deliberate, their voices measured. Officer Liam Carter remained off to the side, answering questions in a subdued tone, his earlier hesitation now replaced with quiet understanding. He no longer avoided the moment. He stood within it. The desk where the badge had been placed remained untouched, the small piece of metal now stripped of meaning, no longer a symbol of authority, but a reminder of its misuse. Monica adjusted her sleeve with a small, precise motion, then turned toward the exit. No one stopped her. No one questioned her. The path opened naturally, not out of fear, but recognition. As she stepped outside, the city air felt different. Not quieter, but clearer. The rhythm of Chicago continued around her. Cars passing, voices carrying through the streets, life moving forward as it always had. But for those who had witnessed what had happened inside, the meaning of that moment would not fade. Monica paused briefly at the edge of the sidewalk, her gaze moving across the street, not searching, not lingering, just observing. Then she stepped forward, her pace steady, her posture unchanged, returning to the flow of the city as if nothing had interrupted it. Because for her, nothing had. And everything had. Justice had not needed force. It had not needed volume. It had simply needed to be seen clearly. And once it was, everything else adjusted around it. What makes this story quietly powerful is not the moment of revelation, but the way authority unraveled without resistance. Officer Brooks did not lose control in a dramatic struggle. He lost it in the absence of reflection, in the assumption that his position gave him the right to act without question. That is where the deeper fracture begins. Authority, when separated from accountability, becomes fragile in ways that are not immediately visible. Monica Hayes did not confront him with force, and she did not need to reveal who she was to change the outcome. She allowed every action to stand on its own, unchallenged, until the system itself had no choice but to respond. What ultimately ended his career was not her power, but his own certainty, preserved clearly and without interruption. And perhaps that is the quiet truth in this story. The greatest risk of authority is not opposition. It is the belief that it no longer needs to examine itself. I hope you enjoyed that story. Please share it with your friends and subscribe so that you do not miss out on the next one. In the meantime, I have handpicked 2 stories for you that I think you will enjoy. Have a great day.